A Fox Spirit's Guide to Sleeping with Men. Description. Master said, "We are fox spirits. The greatest calling in our lives is to leave the mountain to seduce men." Thus began the journey of a lifetime for a foolish little fox spirit who had always followed his master's orders to a T. He promptly toddled down the path of no return as he went on his merry way to seduce men. Yet, before he could even make his way out of the mountains, he was scrambling back to his master again, scared out of his wits by a demon catcher who happened to be passing through. This is a story about a fox spirit who tried his hand at seducing a scholar, only to end up in the bed of a demon catcher. A Fox Spirit's Guide to Sleeping with Men. Audiobook. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there was a fox spirit. Little Fox grew up in the mountains, learning the ways of cultivation with his master. When he finally reached adulthood, the time had also come for Master to throw him out into the world. We are fox spirits. The greatest calling in our lives is to leave the mountain to seduce men. Now that you've grown into a fox spirit and are no longer just a carefree cub, you need to set off to fulfill your calling in life. Little Fox didn't quite understand what Master meant. He asked, "If a fox spirit's calling is to seduce men, are there any guidelines that we must follow? Is there any regulation on what kinds of men we must seduce, for example, or a standard number of men we must seduce before we are considered to have fulfilled our purpose in life?" The barrage of questions gave Master a terrible headache. This little fellow had no parents. He was left on the mountain as a baby. When Master found him, he had already been starved for days and was close to dying. At the time, Master could not understand how anyone could bear to throw away such an adorable little thing. As the years went by, however, the mystery slowly resolved itself, and Master often found himself thinking, the little cub must have been abandoned by his parents because he was too dumb. Seeing that Master had no interest in answering his questions, Little Fox continued rambling on, "Or perhaps there's a handbook of some sort that records all the men that every fox has to seduce, like the Book of Life belonging to the Lord of Hell, you know, which records the complete life and death of every soul." The truth was, Little Fox was very bewildered at the moment. As soon as he heard from Master that a fox spirit's lifelong calling was to seduce men, his head began to swim in confusion. He didn't understand why he needed to seduce men, and he definitely had no idea how he ought to go about doing such a thing. Hence, he needed an instruction manual. Such a manual should exist, right? How else would we know what kinds of men we should be seducing? And how would our ancestors ever realize that their lifelong calling would be to seduce men if there wasn't such a manual to tell them so? No longer able to stand the way Little Fox was treating him like a walking encyclopedia, Master exploded at last, brushing the little thing off with the most perfunctory of answers. "There's no manual. Go search for men and your own. If anyone catches your eye, just bang him." Little Fox, do you still not get it now? After I've explained it so clearly for you? No. Let me lay it out simply for you. Get out of this house now, take the left turn and exit the mountain. You will run into all kinds of men on the way. If you find anyone good looking, bang him right away. That's all there is to it. Just like that, Little Fox. No, it should be Little Fox Spirit now. Just like that, Little Fox Spirit was tricked into leaving his home by his master, thus embarking on his wonderful quest for a man to bang.